My wife and I opened our marriage. I hooked up with someone my wife feels I should have known was off limits. This isn't a revenge story. I'm not unhappy with an open marriage and a non-monogamous lifestyle so far, and things have been going well up until now. Just want to make that clear before someone says I need to divorce my wife or act like she's the villain. She's not a villain, and I just want to know what a good way to get past this is. My wife and I got married very young, 19 and 18, which now we consider a happy mistake. We both agree we shouldn't have gotten married that young and should have waited it out so we could mature a bit more, but we are both still happy together and very deeply in love with each other. We are 28 and 29 now and coming up on 10 years. No kids yet, but we plan to have kids by 35. So as a consequence of being high school sweethearts, we don't have very much intimate experience outside of each other. We both were kinda curious after she discovered she was also into women, and so we started experimenting with adding another woman to the bedroom. Earlier this year it came out that we both kinda felt like we missed out on dating around and intimately exploring ourselves, so we decided to open the marriage. We thought we discussed boundaries well, no love making with others in our home, always use protection, and other things both of us felt uncomfortable about. We also discussed an ask, but don't tell agreement, where basically neither of us have to tell each other more than, hey, I may be home late tonight, but if one of us needs details then we're obligated to tell. Given that my wife is an absolute gorgeous woman, she had no shortage of suitors. I decided it was better of me to not know what she was doing, but it was obvious she was getting more action than me. So I have this one friend whom I've known since college. We got jobs in different sections of the same company, so I see her quite often and consider her a close friend. We went out to happy hour with the office, and after I got some alcohol in me, I told her about things. We both got to talking, and to make a long story short, we ended up spending some alone time together in my car. The lovemaking was great, but I don't know if it's just because it was someone new who I already had good chemistry with, or she was just really good, but I had a great time. I reached out to her after and we both decided to make it a regular thing. Now she and I are kind of friends with benefits, and the lovemaking is still amazing. So this has been going on for like 3 months now. Literally no issues until she asks. She asks specifically if I'm hooking up with a ton of girls or just one. My wife thought it may be fun for me to have a 3-way with us. I said I would be down, but I would need to see if she would be down. My wife said she would need to meet her first as well. I explained she already has and told her who it was. She was very unhappy by this. She said that what I was doing was crossing a boundary since she and I have a relationship. She said that anyone she's hooked up with have been people that she's not known before, and that she thinks me screwing my friend and coworker is way too intimate. I could tell this was making her insecure, and I told her that if she feels this way, I would stop sleeping with my friend. This didn't make things much better. I'm no longer sleeping with her, but my wife is already so insecure it doesn't make a difference. She has been asking questions that I feel are pointless to answer, like is she better at XYZ than me? Does she have a better body than me? Does she do this specific thing I don't let you do? Do you still want to screw her? Did you want it before now? Some of which I honestly just lied about because I know she doesn't want the answer and just wants to feel secure. However, it doesn't seem much better. I can tell she's still disturbed by this and is still resentful of what I did. She has said multiple times I should have known she was off limits. I feel like I messed up, but I don't see how. I'm not really sure what to do.
I hooked up with a foreigner who has a long-term girlfriend, and I feel horrible for her. For reference, I'm a female first-year college student at a coastal college in the eastern United States. I was walking downtown one Friday night with my friends after leaving a music venue, drunk, when I make eye contact with a guy, but for an abnormally long amount of time. I mean at least 10 seconds. I notice that he's cute and perhaps a little too old for me, but I'm a little drunk and I'm feeling bold, so I turn around and walk up to him. I asked him for his Snapchat, because that's just an easy way to talk to someone, and he mutters to me, "I'm from Germany though." I tell him I don't mind and I'd like to get to know him. He says okay, and we exchange Snapchats. For a few days, he did not reach out, so I figured he wasn't interested. Okay, whatever. But he eventually reached out and we began talking frequently. We tell each other all about each other, where he tells me he is studying in Germany to be a doctor, how he is on a tour of the United States, about his hopes and dreams, family, and I do the same. I start to feel a sense of closeness to him before we even met up again. One night he asked me to hang out with him and his friends before he left for a new city to visit in America. I happily say yes. However, he is 23, and so are all of his friends, so he suggests bar hopping. Long story short, I get my fake taken, get extremely embarrassed, but he decides to come back to my dorm with me. We talk for a while and eventually we make love, some of the best, might I add, and we did many times, but irrelevant. We end up spending the whole night telling each other so much about our lives and being extremely vulnerable with each other. He had to leave the next morning for his flight for the next US city on his list, so he leaves. I'm left at home, a little sad that it came to an end, but content, realizing that this was a one-night thing. I shouldn't become obsessed. I'm not delusional, and knew he probably did this kind of stuff with a bunch of girls. He is subjectively a very attractive man, and with that accent, I know other girls ate that up too, but still I was happy about it. I expected him to not reach out much while on his tour, and he didn't for a lot of it. But he would occasionally send me pictures of Vegas or San Francisco or Hollywood Boulevard or text and ask how I'm doing. He then told me that he is going to make a detour from his plans and come back to my town to see me. Obviously this is very exciting for me, and I say yes, and we make arrangements for him to come stay the night. He flies back to me and comes over. He greeted me with a necklace that he bought me while he was gone, matching his, and put it on me. We again talk about our lives in depth, our futures, and his tour. We make love again, multiple times, and we ended up staying up until like 4 in the morning, just talking. Couldn't tell you everything we discussed, but it was very intimate, and he is an extremely romantic person. Like when we woke up, he watched me get ready telling me how beautiful I am and how upset he is to say goodbye, kissing me in between every step of my morning routine. Right before he left he pulled me back into bed, and told me to never settle for less, that whoever ends up with me is an extremely lucky man, and that I am beautiful, intelligent, funny, kind, etc. He told me he wants to one day fly me out to his home and show me where he lives. It was a very sweet moment for me. I started crying because I don't think anyone's ever told me such nice things. I know though, that men will say anything to get in your pants, but this felt real at least to some degree. We hug and kiss, and tell each other, have a great life. And he walked away. Later that day, he removed me as a friend from his Snapchat. I'm pretty upset, but again, realized this was not going to be a long-term situation, so I was okay. I brushed it off as a cool meetup with an awesome person that I was lucky to meet, once-in-a-lifetime person that I'll never forget. This goes on for about a month, neither of us reaching out. Fast forward to last night, some guy adds me by search on Snapchat, not a name I recognize, but I accept it anyways. He sends me a snap, and to my shock, it was a German guy, saying that he misses me so much. I ask him why he is contacting me on a Snapchat of a person's name that isn't his. He then sends me paragraphs explaining that this was a fake Snapchat, that he has a long-term girlfriend back in Germany, that they aren't doing well and he wasn't sure if he wanted to really be with her. He told me that spending time with me was really great and refreshing for him, that he will never forget me and I was more special to him than I realize, but he doesn't want her to find out, so he will be talking to me on this Snapchat because he doesn't want to lose contact. I didn't say much, I just told him that while I feel the same way, that what he did was wrong and I wasn't sure what to say. He said, I know, sleep well and when you wake up we will talk about this more. I'm not sure what much there is to talk about. There is the Atlantic Ocean and a girlfriend dividing us, not like we are going to get married. But he was very special to me and I am ashamed to admit that I do want to talk to him. I love the plot. He blocked me on Instagram, assuming so I cannot find the girlfriend. I will probably stop talking to him and write this off as a crazy thing that happened to me in college, but I am sad. I feel guilty and terrible for the other girl in Germany. But he was one of the most memorable people I have ever met. Everybody believes I'm dumb for breaking up with my boyfriend for nothing, but for me it is something. I need advice about the thing with men having female friends. I don't know. I could understand if it is a childhood friend, an old ex where love and attraction is long gone, on both parts, and only friendship is left etc. But my boyfriend of 3 years, been living together for a month, suddenly became friends with a girl from work. I don't like it. It started with him telling me how happy he was that there's finally someone new at work that he clicked with. He told me who she is and they had a lot in common etc. I didn't mind it at first. I was just happy he was having a good time at work. I started minding when I met her. She was hostile, she called me the lucky one and asked me if I felt threatened by younger women since I'm older. What? I'm literally 2 to 3 years older than her and 6 months older than my boyfriend. He laughed. I told him that I didn't like her, and that I didn't want him to be closer to her. He has a lot of friends and he doesn't need her. He called me jealous and ridiculous. I said fine. I kept an eye on them and they started texting more and more frequently. We celebrated our anniversary last weekend and she knew it. She was texting the whole evening and he answered some of her texts. She asked him if he was having fun at our celebration and he said very much, so she texted. If you're really having fun you wouldn't be texting me instead. I told him that was enough and that he should put his phone aside. I asked him if he thought what she wrote was okay. He said that she was only joking. That's her sense of humor. I should loosen up. I told him again that I didn't like her and even though I could be wrong he should respect my wishes and cut her off. He told me that I was controlling and insecure and that he isn't doing anything wrong, so I should respect and trust him. The evening was ruined. We fought. I thought to myself, maybe I was controlling and insecure and in that case he shouldn't be with someone like me. Or I could be right and he is letting someone step over my boundaries and then I shouldn't be with him. Either way we shouldn't be with each other. I took a personal day. Moved all my stuff from his apartment and went back to my old place that I shared with a friend. She was happy to have me back so she didn't need to find a new roomie. Everyone now from my boyfriend to our friends to our families think I'm overreacting. We could discuss and solve this, but I have tried, for many months, to make him understand that I was very uncomfortable. He texts me multiple times a day to come to my senses and to stop being childish. He loves me and she is just a friend. Funny that old me is the childish one, isn't it? With the age gap and all. My boyfriend asked his ex to make a workout plan for me that would make me look like her. I, 20 female, and my boyfriend Alex, 22 male, met 3 years ago but started dating 10 months ago. When I first met Alex 3 years ago, we were both in separate relationships. At the time, he was dating L, 22 female. Alex and I had a mutual friend back then, and would often meet in a group setting with our partners and a few more couples. We both got out of our own relationships at the same time a year ago and then hit it off. Elle works out a lot, and Alex and her would often go to the gym together back when they dated. She has a slim, thick body type with a flat stomach, bigger thighs and butt, and slim arms. She is very pretty and it's hard not to be jealous. Her figure almost looks like a real-life Elastigirl. I, on the other hand, am slim and thin. I'm just tall, skinny, and flat. I don't mind the way I look. Alex never seemed to dislike the way I looked either, he always complimented the little I had. He had asked one time before if I wanted to get a gym membership and work out with him, but I said no, and he never asked again. Yesterday, Elle reached out to me through Instagram and asked if I had talked to Alex about wanting to start working out. I said no because I hadn't. I was a bit confused and asked why she was asking. She then proceeded to send me multiple screenshots of conversations with Alex. He had asked her to put together a workout plan and meal plan that would make my body look like hers. He told Elle that it was my idea and that I had asked him to ask Elle. I never did. He was also very strict with making sure that she sent the plan to him and not me. Elle thought this was a little suspicious and decided to ask me before she made the plan. I haven't told him that I know about it, and I genuinely don't know where to go from here. I feel so insecure and ashamed of the way I look now. Elle has been an absolute saint through this and has really tried to make me feel pretty, although it doesn't work. Alex is apparently not happy with the way I look. Not only does he want me to change, but he wants me to look like his ex. I love this guy so much and he's been absolutely perfect until now. Am I overreacting? I totally lied about my friend's last words, and I will not honor her last request. My friend Amy died a couple of months ago and I was the last one to see her alive. I went over to her apartment, we watched a movie, ate dinner, I left to finish an essay, and then she OD'd and passed alone. She was 19. Our final conversation was unremarkable. I said it was good to see her, thanked her for the food, we made plans for the sports we were going to play together the following week. I told her I would send her a bread recipe we had talked about. She said she was excited to bake it to bring to a potluck that was coming up. She wished me luck with the essay and I said I would try, but Brian, my roommate, was always loud and distracting, so hopefully I could get it done before he came back from clubbing. She laughed, and the very last thing she said was, "Say hi to Brian for me." Amy didn't answer any messages the next day, so I sent her roommate, Kara, a message to ask if everything was okay. Kara had been staying nearby with her boyfriend, so she went home to see what was happening, and found Amy's body. She let me know what had happened, and after that there were police and all sorts. It was a shock and confusing, but I did not pry for details. Amy and Kara were incredibly close, practically sisters, so I absolutely did not want to bother her with questions, and the police had investigating to do. I was asked to describe the evening. Amy used substances frequently. They don't think the OD was on purpose, but they wanted to know if she was acting strangely. Had she taken anything while I was there? What time did I leave, etc.? And the death was deemed not suspicious. Amy had not contacted anyone online after I left, so I was the person she last spoke to. Kara asked me what her last words were. I lied. I said it had been to wish me luck with my essay, and that she hoped I had a good night. Amy had always been positive and had such a genuinely lovely soul. Well wishes were fitting last words. I did not say anything about saying hi to Brian. Why did I lie? Brian can screw off. There is a running joke among some of my friends about Brian's magical ability to make everything about himself. We wanted to do a little Great British Bake Off for fun. Brian buys a sparkly suit and declares himself Paul Hollywood and yells through the whole thing. "You're doing a painting?" Brian can't draw, but until you physically leave he will lecture you about why you're doing it wrong. Never do improv with Brian. It's like improv with Michael Scott. A group of people want to do life drawing. Brian finds a way to be the exposed model. Any birthday features speeches and songs performed by Brian, whether you really know him or not. Someone was going to come out as gay and was planning a little picnic for it. Brian decided to come dressed as a drag queen to take the pressure off. Whatever sport or instrument or language you try to learn, Brian will insist he is better, or would be better if you try to learn it, which he won't. He physically can't stand to not be the center of attention. I do not like Brian. I cannot wait to not live with him anymore. He thinks of himself as charismatic, and at first he truly seems that way, but over time you realize it's all just volume and narcissism. That said, many people do still like him, life of the party and all, while his older friends grow to despise him and gradually exit the group. I was one of the first people to find out that Amy had passed, and that evening I called my best friend to get it off my chest and because I needed to vent feelings. Brian heard. I should have been more careful, but I wasn't in my right mind. He asked for more details. Why did he need more details? Because he had already started drafting a mass message to send to all of Amy's friends to let them know that she had passed. Amy and Brian met maybe twice. I told him he couldn't send it. This was on the day I found out. The police were only just involved. We didn't even know if her parents knew yet. He went off on a whole explanation of how he could find them on Facebook and could check land records to find their house, and go there in a suit with a bunch of flowers to sit them down and properly inform them. I said the police would tell them, or Kara. As I said, Amy and Kara were close. Kara is from another country, so she spends summers with Amy's family, practically like a second daughter. Why on earth would Brian, a total stranger, be a more fitting messenger? He said he had thought that he should get to be the one to tell them. I remember it well, because get. For non-native English speakers, you get to be player one, you get to have an extra piece of chocolate cake, you get to dress up, you get to have a little treat that you want. You absolutely do not get to tell someone that their daughter has passed away. This anti-Brian rant is getting too long. He held off on telling most people until after Amy's parents put out an official statement, though then gloated about having known about the news beforehand. He seemed to think that he would be able to speak at her funeral, but compromised and spoke instead at an informal gathering of friends that we held to honor her. He gave several speeches which, if you weren't aware that the two barely knew each other, would make you think that they were very close. He led a number of vigils, events, gatherings, which, yes, were a good mourning opportunity for many people, but I'm too far gone with disliking him that I can't see it as anything other than him trying to gain an ownership of the situation. We put together a fundraiser in Amy's name for a mental health organization she had used, and Brian was upset that he was not listed as a contributor. He did not donate. We had a book where anyone could write about their memories with Amy. Kara wrote a half-page, Brian wrote 2.5. I do not like to lie. It makes me feel sick to my stomach. A couple of months have passed and the knowledge that I actively lied about Amy's last words is gnawing at me. It's so small and dumb, but I didn't say hi to Brian for her. I said I would. She made her last ever request and I'm denying it. I'm sorry for the paragraphs about what a massive jerk he is, but I hope it demonstrates my point. This is what he is like. This is how he behaved, thinking a mutual friend he'd only met a couple of times had passed away. Imagine what he would have been like if he knew that her last words were about him. I confess, channeling my negative feelings into hating how he has turned this into a main character moment has channeled them away from me, and the obvious fact that I left her alone to pass away. I think my anger at myself for the lying might be part of the overall guilt I feel about it, but that's what therapy is for. Thank you for reading. I have given this a lot of thought and I'm not going to tell anyone what she said, but I needed to get it out of my brain and into words.